Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining. The market is looking pretty good so far today. We have bank stocks popping back up. JP Morgan, even though they reported pretty good earnings yesterday, they fell off, but we're seeing like Bank of America, Citigroup, Morgan Stanley all pop off. So definitely keep those ones on your radar. We're having a pretty good day from the SPY, and then Tom, even DraftKings is coming back a little bit.
Yeah, it really is. DraftKings have an awesome morning. They really recovered up with these banks for some reason, but I'm really glad to see it happening. And hopefully we can get up above this $50, 50-cent resistance. Looks like we're kind of coming down here at open off of that level. So if we can break that today, I think it would be an amazing move to the upside. And we do have that high up there at $51 from last Friday. So hopefully we can kind of get back up there and maybe break $51 and get a pretty decent move, because man, DraftKings has been consolidating down here for a long time. I know people are really waiting for a little bit of a move or at least a breakout.
There we go. So love to hear that. DraftKings, Palantir, Fastly, you could say Zoom, Redfin. A lot of those are starting to pop back up. So definitely keep growth stocks on your radar. A lot of the ones that have been beaten down significantly are at some pretty good levels, and buyers are right back in, as we can clearly see with Zoom. But we just want to welcome everyone to the stream. So welcome Alex, Hunter, Mason, Bill, Santiago, Keisha, James, Kenneth, Paul, George, David, Jamie, and Gabriel. Thank you guys so much for joining today. You guys know the drill. Let us know what stocks you're watching. We could definitely take a look at them. But we have David saying DraftKings is on fire. I mean, I'm hoping to see some momentum come back into this one. I know that we have like a lot of stocks like trying to pop back up like across the board, DraftKings being one of them. But Tom, do you have like any specific setups you were eyeing? Like I know you were talking about like Corsair and like some of like the clean energy stocks earlier in the week.
Yeah, Corsair is actually having a pretty good morning, actually. Looks like we might get a pretty decent pop out of them. And, Corsair did have a pretty decent pop up yesterday, but I'll be honest, it wasn't too big of a move. We opened around 26.20. We had a high of the day around 26.60 and, a low of the day around 26 even. So overall, they didn't really move too much. And I'd like to see a little bit more movement, kind of like what we saw on last Thursday and last Friday. We had some pretty explosive moves then. So hopefully we can see that happen again now. And they're bouncing right off that support. And man, I would not be surprised if we had a pretty good green day out of this one with the way it's running.
Very interesting. On the top of my watch list so far, we have Zoom. They're having a pretty good day, so definitely keep that one on your watch list. RCL and the cruise lines are coming back. Redfin's popping off. Lots of green so far today. Welcome Kumar and Ant to the stream. And we have Ant saying CHPT is making a comeback. So looking at CHPT, it's definitely holding its ground. And, we've been watching this one for months now, Tom? And it's just been moving so slow, but I'm hoping to see it pop back up.
Yeah, it is. It's been moving very slow back to the upside. And, it's been a pretty unfortunate thing. It's just been consolidating, and it's been a pretty hard one to trade lately. And I feel like it's pretty good to scoop up shares on this one right now, right around the $20 support. It might be harder to trade options on this one, but either way, as long as you get enough time, I think it'll end up working out pretty well. As long as you go out to maybe the middle of 2022 or maybe January of 2023, I feel like it could be some pretty good leap options there. And looking at it right now, I mean, it's been recovering up nicely, and hopefully it can kind of follow some of these other stocks up today. But looks like as of now, right at market open, we are heading back down. But yesterday at open, we also went kind of straight down, and then we had a nice recovery. So hopefully we can maybe bounce off this 1980 support.
Awesome. So welcome Sir C to the stream. Also, Tom, we have Square really popping off. They're up over 2% on the day. They have a lot of momentum. And, do you see any like major levels for this one? Because I know that especially over like the past couple months, they've been in like a pretty big channel.
Yeah, they really have. And, they bounced off that bottom support around 225. And as of right now, they're kind of getting back to this upper resistance that we saw just a couple days ago. And I'll give you the number here in 1 second. Looks like the exact top is going to be somewhere like 251.50. We actually double topped there I should say last Thursday and Friday. And then we had a pretty bad drop at the beginning of the week this week. But, you know, we are getting back up to the end of the week levels from last week again this week. And hopefully we can break out above that 250 to 251 area. Looks like that's definitely the next resistance. If we break that, then look for a pretty decent run up to like 258 to 260.
Awesome. 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 So looking at everything, we're seeing mainly green out of the market so far. It looks pretty good for a lot of these dip buy stocks. Like if you guys don't have a long-term portfolio, now is a pretty good time to start one, like especially with some of these like growth plays. Like you guys know I love DraftKings, but you also have Corsair, Neo, Redfin, Palantir. You could say Zoom. There's a lot of them out there right now, even like CHPT if you like that. I'm looking through my watch list, and there are a lot of good stocks at good levels right now. RUN's a good one, TAN, stocks like that. So definitely consider buying the dip. And yeah, I mean, Tom, do you have like any like major stocks you're watching, or like any like what are your favorite plays in the market right now?
Yeah, I was really eyeing up MU a couple days ago with their big drop to the downside. And man, this stock's been getting destroyed lately. And as we can see, they came all the way down to this pretty good long-term support here around $65. And as of right now, we're getting a pretty decent recovery back to the upside today. So I'm definitely keeping my eyes on MU and a couple of these other chip stocks that have been getting destroyed lately because, I know that they're getting destroyed in the short term, but I still like them for the long term. And looking at this longer term 65 support, if that holds up, it might be a decent time to scoop up some shares down here on this dip. They're actually pretty far away from their all-time high of $97. And I feel like it's a pretty good time to buy the dip. Now, I think they might go a little bit lower, but I feel like that a stock like MU is always a pretty decent one to pick up, especially when it's this far off of all-time highs like this. I feel like it's a pretty decent opportunity, and they're in a pretty good sector. They're in the same sector as like AMD, Qualcomm, NVIDIA, and stocks like that. And I feel like they can end up kind of doing better over the next, I should say, like 6 months to a year. Just keep in mind the short term is going to be pretty rough with them, but I am looking for a pretty good bounce off this support.
Alrighty, so we have Keisha saying, looking to buy call options in Qualcomm. Started to buy yesterday. So, yeah, it's up like 1.2% so far. It looks like you got in at a pretty good time, and I can see it popping back up. We're like right around that 125 support.
Yeah, we're actually like right at that support. Looks pretty good. And I feel like that these chip stocks have been getting beaten down the past couple months on these chip delays and chip production problems. And I feel like eventually this is going to have to get resolved. But in the short term, just be really careful. I don't know when, did they give an expiration on those, Mike?
No.
Okay, I don't know when those expire. Hopefully they expire in a long time, but hopefully it bounces off support for you and goes up this week. That way you don't have to worry too much about the timing of everything. But, Qualcomm looks pretty decent off that bottom support, and it honestly looks like it's kind of following MU back to the upside right now. But just keep in mind, like I said, in the short term, there might be a lot of problems with these companies. There's lots of chip delays and production problems right now, and we actually have earnings coming up on November 3rd, it looks like, with Qualcomm. So if your expiration is way past November 3rd and you plan on holding for a little while, be a little careful of those earnings because, these chip earnings have not been going too good lately.
Gotcha. All right, so we have David saying, what are your thoughts on CEI? Is this stock dead? So I haven't been following it too much lately, but I know a bunch of people were pumped all over, like, everywhere a couple weeks ago. So in my opinion, it's dead. I mean, we see, like, pump and dumps like this all the time, and, you'll have, like, a couple big pieces of news. Everyone will jump in, and then it gets hyped like way too much, and we see a move from 33 cents up to nearly $5. So in my opinion, it's dead. We might see like a small pop back up, but one, no one can time that perfectly, and two, it's just like a pretty bad setup to me.
Yeah, it is. It's just not the best right now. It's just, unfortunately, we are on that kind of downtrend right now, too. It's not like we're seeing this nice rise up from, September 24th through September 30th. We're kind of on a downtrend, so it's just not looking quite as hot anymore as it was in the past.
All right, and then we have Alex saying thoughts on SE. So looking at SE, they're right about to break that all-time high, Tom. It looks like we might have a double top, like very close to 360.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good scenario there. Like maybe if we double top, it could end up being a pretty good play to the downside if you catch it right. But man, that's a pretty bad drop today. And you're right, there is a pretty big resistance up there. So we'll have to see what happens over the next couple of days because, man, this is actually coming down pretty hard right now. It's only down 0.5%, but just comparative to a lot of the other moves, this is a pretty big move down at open.
Gotcha. So looking at everything, I'm just gonna do a quick scan to see like some of the leaders so far. Plug is pulling back a good amount. I don't know if you saw that one, but obviously it had an amazing day yesterday. But it's down like it's kind. I don't want to say it's crashing because it's not crashing, but it's definitely having like a respectable pullback.
Yeah, that's pretty hefty there. That pullback is definitely pretty strong. It's almost, we're honestly almost to the opening price of yesterday. I almost had to double take myself because that huge gap we had yesterday. But yeah, that opening price yesterday was right around $32 even. So as we start to get down there, definitely watch out for $32. We might hit there and have a little bit of a move back up intraday, but man, the sell-off's definitely happening, and I wouldn't be surprised if we had a couple days of sell-off on PLUG, maybe Enphase, and a couple of these other stocks. They've been killing it for the past few days, and if we look at Plug's chart, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 awesome green days in a row, and you can see that this red day today, like I said, we're not even below the opening price yet of yesterday. So I could definitely see a possible like maybe 2-day pullback or something like that. But hopefully Plug keeps up with that momentum because, man, I think people that have been buying up the dip are really looking for a longer term move back to the upside here.
And then we can't forget about good old AMC. This one's trying to come back. Like, what is this, like the fifth or sixth time it bounced off this level? But either way, it's up 2% on the day. It's trying to pop back up. There is a ton of resistance overhead, so I hope it pops back up. But in my opinion, it's just unlikely, especially given the way that just like retail trader sentiment has changed, and like Wall Street bets has changed dramatically over the past couple months, especially. So either way, AMC is up 2% on the day. I would say $40 is the next major resistance level. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say $40 is definitely the next major one too. And we're actually not too far away. So be a little careful, guys, as we kind of get up there. I'm seeing 39 to 40. So somewhere between there, I feel like we could definitely have some movement. On the 90-day 15-minute, I mean, man, we've been between a range for a while. We've had a bottom level of the range at 36.50. We've had an upper level of the range right around 38.50. And it's actually pretty nice to see a pretty nice pop up above there. We've been waiting for a while for AMC to just kind of move anywhere. Like it's just been flat. You can see here on the chart, like I said, it's been in this range for a long time. It's actually been like 2 or 3 weeks now. So hopefully we get a pretty decent move back up. And looking at the max daily chart, Mike, it's just, unfortunately, it's not looking too good to me based on the daily chart. But if we start to see some pretty good pops back up, I mean, that could definitely change the sentiment. And hopefully Wall Street Bets gets back in because like you said, that type of sector or Wall Street Bets has definitely changed. And instead of everyone just jumping into one stock, now there's just everybody's jumping into a bunch of different stocks.
Gotcha. All right, so we have Sal coming in saying, good morning, like button hit. There we go. So thank you so much for that, Sal. If you guys like the streams, it would help us out so much if you hit that like button. It only takes like 2 seconds, and Tom and I would greatly appreciate it. But then we have Alex L saying, Mike, I would love a video regarding the Fed tapering in action in mid-November. Maybe it is an indicator of a pullback. So definitely could be. And yeah, we could probably get a video on that. I'll add it to the potential video idea list. But then we have the other Alex saying, Fubo is looking great over the last couple of days. So I'm really, really glad you mentioned this one because I was actually looking at it this morning and it's up 6% on the day, which is pretty good. And even on that daily chart, Tom, I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it actually does. Like on that 1-year daily, it's turning up very nicely. And I know that this is like a sports streaming stock. And I know that it should end up doing pretty good in the longer term with the way sports betting and everything's been going. And I know lots of people have been talking about it. And I know that Vicky was a pretty big lover of Fubo over the past few months, I should say. So hopefully it gets a pretty good bounce and goes like right back to the upside. Like I said, it's a sports streaming stock. And, we're seeing some stocks like DraftKings and some of these other sports betting stocks doing very well. And there's actually been a lot of talk that Fubo does well with these sports betting stocks because obviously the people betting want to watch the sports somewhere. So they go sign up for Fubo.
Right. Interesting. So I think it looks pretty good for like a dip buy. I would say it's a little bit riskier than like your average stock, but at these levels, I think it's pretty good. And if you wanted to get into this company, obviously it's a lot better to get in now when it's at 29 rather than 50. But of course, no one could catch the bottom either way, and I do like the setup. Like, it's not my favorite for like a longer term play because I'm a big DraftKings guy, but I don't think it's bad, and I feel like it's pretty solid for like a short term play.
Yeah, and hopefully DraftKings like buys them or something and then
Yeah.
creates like DraftKings streaming service. That would be
Yep.
crazy. And I wouldn't be surprised with the way DraftKings has been making all these crazy deals lately. I mean, man, that's pretty awesome. And hopefully DraftKings kind of maybe gets into some type of streaming service, because now that I thought about it, that could be a pretty good monetary opportunity for them.
Yeah, I'm sure they're looking at companies to buy out. They're trying to buy out everyone. Entain, I know that they're making deals left and right. So we'll definitely see what happens there. But they're looking
Wow,
pretty
look
good.
at Fastly.
What'd you say?
Look at FSLY popping off this morning.
Yeah, it's looking awesome. Breaking out up 2.5%. Lots of momentum. And what's the next resistance to watch out for?
Yeah, I mean, we're actually right at one, right around like $45. So it's going to be a little tough right now. We might get a little bit of chop come in, but I will say the next big one's going to be right around 47. And then after that, the next major one is up there around $60. That $60 resistance, I think, is going to be the bigger one to look at. But there's definitely some shorter term ones like the one around 47 and then 45 coming up right now. So looks like we're actually 2 cents off from $45.
Here we go. So Fastly's looking awesome. Love to see that. We're also seeing just a lot of stocks pop off. Like, I know Zoom is up 1.5% on the day. There's just a lot of stocks in the green, which is what you love to see. Even Apple's moving, Tom. They're popping off pretty well. Apple's up a little over 1% on the day. Even though like big tech isn't my favorite like area of the market right now, Apple looks decent overall. And then one I really, really wanted to point out was UPST. Check it out.
Yeah, UPST, I'm sure it's flying up through all-time highs again today. Let's see, 357.33, and we're actually, yep, we did, Mike. We broke that all-time high up above $350. I cannot believe that we're saying that again with UPST. And man, we've been talking about this one a lot, and unfortunately, it just keeps going up no matter what happens. It might have 2 or 3 red days, but other than that, it just went straight up.
Yeah, it's really popping off. It's just breaking all-time highs basically every day, and I think they have earnings within like the next couple weeks or so. So, I've been looking to play this one for the downside, but I'm just glad I stayed on the sidelines, because it just keeps going up and up and up. But eventually it will turn over, and I'll definitely keep it on my watch list for when that day comes. But then we have sales saying UVXY is making new lows. Is it a good time to buy shares? So UVXY, only if you want to hedge the market and only if you really want to hedge like the S&P 500. Keep in mind, like, Tom, can you pull up like a daily chart of UVXY or like Max Daily or anything like that? We can see over like the history of this chart, it continuously makes new lows. So this ETF is not like Apple making new lows or DraftKings making new lows or anything like that. Like, this ETF is designed to fall. So like if you were to buy in every time it made new lows, you'd get screwed over really, really badly. So I wouldn't look at like the new lows like as like a factor for this one. Only look at it if you're like looking to hedge the market and if you think the market will fall.
Yeah, like if you're looking at the S&P 500 and you're seeing a lot of bad maybe economic factors come in, and you're seeing the S&P 500 maybe in a dead cat bounce setup, or for example, if the S&P falls below this like 426 support, then I feel like it could be an awesome time to grab a stock like UVXY or maybe VXX even. But like Mike said, those stocks are really like leveraged for the long term, and keep in mind that they're always going to go down and then they're going to reverse split and then pretty much reset themselves. And that's just how those stocks work. And there's certain calculations that make it work out the way it does. But like we see with VXX here, they used to be $3.15 a share. Now that they're posting $23.21. Soon, well, eventually this will get to $10, maybe $5, then it will reverse split and then open back up at like $100 and then slowly fall off again. But it will have those little instances where, like, whenever COVID happened, VXX had a awesome pop from 56 up to 315 and then right back down. But like Mike said, the biggest thing with these are timing. And if you think the market's going to drop over the next month or two, then it's a good time to maybe grab some shares. But keep in mind the S&P 500 kind of looks like it's turning back up right now. And we had some pretty good jobs numbers come out this morning. So hopefully the market, in your case, doesn't just start ripping back up if you grab these shares. But I'd be really careful with it right now.
Alrighty. So then we have David saying, what are your thoughts on BB? I know you mentioned them in yesterday's video, and I see them popping. Will the deal with Amazon take them to the next level? So up 4%. I mean, it has a lot of momentum right now. To be honest, like, I haven't been following it too much. I haven't been looking at like the Wall Street bets like mentions and like retail trader sentiment graphs like over like the past couple hours, but to my knowledge there's still not a ton of hype with it. But I can see a pop back up maybe to like $11.50, something right around there. Honestly, I don't see a pop back up to $20. Now that's just my opinion, and if new news comes out, or if like retail traders like really start to like jump on like the hype train with this one, then it can change. But as of the current situation, I can see it pop into like $11.50 or so.
Yeah, it might be a pretty good swing play for the next like couple of weeks, as long as we don't get too many red days to kind of, screw up that implied volatility and screw up the options pricing. But, I feel like it could definitely have a couple days of maybe some good movement to the upside. And it is kind of breaking that high of yesterday right now. So maybe it can get a decent run sometime soon.
Alrighty, so we have Keisha saying, looks like CGC is trying to inch up. So yeah, these MJ stocks have been not moving at all over like the past couple months. I mean, it's nice to see them have these green days, but it's like, they might have one green day where they're up 5%, and then they'll have like 3 red days where they're down like 8%. So they just need like momentum shift. So many sellers have been just dumping into these ones right now. So I hope they do pop off. My problem with I feel like that the industry that they're in has a lot of potential to grow, but a lot of these publicly traded MJ companies are not in good financial positions, and a lot of them also don't have a ton of exposure to the U.S. market. So for that reason, like, I'm definitely looking to get into like the industry, but I just don't love any of the stocks that are currently publicly traded.
Yeah, and like the only one that I actually like love for the long term is PLNHF, and this is an American one, but keep in mind they've even been getting beaten down over the past few months. So it just seems like that no matter what type of stocks you're looking at in the MJ sector, they definitely have gotten beaten down over the past few months. And looking at CGC, I feel like it should be pretty good for the longer term, though. We're right on support, and I feel like that for the long term it should do pretty good. And one thing that that really caught my eye here is look at their earnings. They actually had the first positive earnings. I'm not sure it's the first one they've ever had, but man, it's definitely the first one in a long time. Like, look at all these negative earnings reports, negative. And then finally we get back into the positive here. And I feel like if we could have another positive earnings on like November 9th here, that could be a pretty good thing for CGC. And, I know that these stocks, like you said, they're not in the United States, which a lot of traders don't even know that, Mike. Like, that's a lot of people really think that like CGC is an American company. Same thing with, Tilray and a couple other ones. I'm not sure if Tilray is or not, but CGC is definitely a Canadian company. I know a lot of the other ones are as well. And it's just a really weird scenario because a lot of people, they might look at, hey, the U.S. is finally legalizing marijuana. That's awesome for U.S. companies, and that might be awesome for CGC a little bit. They might get to import some, but keep in mind, it's not going to help them like people think it will. It'll help more of companies like PLNHF and companies like that are already in the United States. But looking at CGC, Mike, I think it does look pretty decent. And if they can post another positive earnings, it might be a good time to scoop up shares for the long term. But like you said, it's super speculative and it's going to be really, really risky. But when they finally do catch that good news, we can see the type of momentum that they might have if that news does end up playing out right.
There we go. So yeah, great info there. Like, like I said, like I want the exposure to the sector or the industry because I feel like it has a lot of potential to grow, but it's just hard to buy into like a crappy company, So in my opinion, it doesn't hurt to buy like a little bit at this dip, but I'm not like a huge fan of everything right now in regards to that. But then we have Hunter saying FUTU has been getting killed. Let's take a look. Yeah, they've been getting smacked. Honestly, I haven't been following this one too much. But yeah, I mean, they're really selling off.
Yeah, they really are. And I don't even know what this company does fundamentally, but man, they broke that support at $100 and just broke that to the downside. And it's just not looking good. And I'll be honest, this chart, it was so explosive in the beginning that I'm glad it's kind of pulling back like this now. And who knows how far it can go down because, man, we went straight up once we passed that $50 mark here a long time ago. So maybe we'll come back down to $50 or maybe 60, but it's hard to tell right now with the way it went straight up right there. There was just no consolidation and there's not really any areas to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, so they're a brokerage and wealth management company from China. So I'm sure like
Oh,
the whole China sell off and all the China problems we've been seeing is definitely playing a role into this sell off. But very interesting, and yeah, I didn't even realize how bad it was selling off. So I'll definitely keep it on my radar. But looking back at the market overall, we have the SPY up 1% on the day. Lots of buyers coming in. I know we had a crazy move to the upside, like in after hours and pre-market, and it's still looking pretty good so far. We have Microsoft, Apple, DraftKings, MU, CRM. We have a bunch of stocks popping, Tom.
yeah, Apple's actually looking pretty good today. They had that nice gap up early on in pre-market. They just broke that high of pre-market around 142.50, and we're getting a pretty good intraday move out of Apple right now. And I would expect a pretty decent move, at least up to like 143 or maybe even 144 out of Apple. But man, that's a pretty good recovery. Like you said, there's just a lot of stocks back to the upside today. And we're just seeing it. And it might not be some of these growth stocks. We're seeing Plug actually have some red days, BLNK go red. But keep in mind that the market was red a lot while these stocks were going up. And now we're just kind of seeing the opposite. Now we're kind of seeing stocks like Facebook, Twitter, stocks like that, these big tech stocks going back to the upside, even MU after having those bad earnings reports and everything, they're getting green today. So it's just, I think that like we've been talking about that market transition lately. I think that the thing is that today it's just unfortunately that a lot of the growth stocks are down and that the bigger stocks are up. But in the end, I feel like that these growth stocks still have a lot of opportunity. So even though like we see Plug red today, I still feel like that even if it goes down again tomorrow and maybe consolidates around $28, I feel like it still has a lot of potential for the next few months.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Right, and then we have David saying, why is Walgreens going down after positive earnings? So WBA, sometimes it's just how the market works. Like literally, sometimes we see stocks that report pretty solid earnings, just like JP Morgan yesterday, and they sell off. And sometimes you have a company report horrible earnings. You'll have a company that's like, billions of dollars in debt, reports like worse numbers than everyone was expecting, and just, let's say, horrible numbers overall, and just bad news, and the stock will pop 10%. So sometimes crazy things happen, and earnings is definitely one of like the most volatile like catalysts you can trade.
Yeah, it really is. And it makes it so difficult because like Mike said, we always get questions about earnings nonstop. People will say, hey, Plug has earnings coming up. Should I buy calls right before earnings? Should I maybe try to play some puts? And the thing is, it's so 50-50. It's like flipping a coin because like Mike said, the earnings can go great. Like with JP Morgan, they had awesome earnings, a pretty decent outlook, good revenue numbers. And it's not like they only beat their earnings by a little bit. Like they had a 3.74 EPS versus a 2.996. Like they beat it by like 70 cents, which is pretty decent. And they just had a bad move to the downside. And, that does happen. And that just makes it such a coin flip that it's just not even worth trading them to me. And I know whenever I first started trading, Mike, I remember the earnings used to seem so awesome. I would get so pumped up for earnings on AMD or Nvidia or Intel or something like that. But then it would just go totally the opposite way that everybody was thinking most of the time. And sure, you might catch a nice 300, 500% pop at one time, but how many times you got to lose before you finally catch that one?
Exactly. So like I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, you might win, I don't know, like 300% on one earnings play, but for every one of those 300 percenters, you might lose like 100% of your investment like 6 times, So it's just like a losing game overall, unless like you have some crazy like information about the company, but it's not realistic. So that's why we normally don't play earnings. And then we have Vicky saying, hit the like, guys, and then levels for Apple. So, yeah, if you guys didn't hit the like button, if you do, it would really help us out. And then looking at Apple, it is up 1.25% on the day. Tom, it looks like we have a lot of chop overhead. What are you seeing?
I'm seeing a pretty big resistance here, right around $143. That looks like it's right in the middle of that range that we were in kind of last week, or at the beginning of the week, I should say. And we've definitely bounced off of 143 quite a bit. And it looks like we're getting pretty close to that intraday today. So maybe be careful for a little bit of consolidation or a little bit of a maybe break back to the downside here before we finally break 143. But hopefully we can get up through 143 and then maybe push up to 144, because man, I've really been waiting to break out above 144 on Apple for the past like couple of weeks. I know that we've just been kind of consolidating down here. If I go to the 90-day 15-minute, you can see that we've really had some problems here at $144. So I'm really looking for some good momentum to maybe push this right back up through there. And with the way we had these jobs numbers come out today, I think that we might actually see or we might actually have a chance for this to happen with Apple. And the overall market looks like it actually is coming back up pretty well today. And one thing that I wanted to show is this chart for the jobless claims that we have here. And this shows the jobless claims ever since the pandemic started in January of, well, ever since the beginning of this year, I should say. But you can see that the initial jobless claims were so high, like at 900,000, 830,000. Now we're actually at lows below 300,000 for the first time since the pandemic started, at 293,000 on initial jobless claims. And that's a pretty big thing that shows people aren't filing for unemployment like they were before. And maybe the jobs market is getting slightly better. So hopefully that can help push the SPY back up like it has been. And if the SPY keeps ripping like this, I would definitely think Apple has a pretty good shot to follow along.
All righty. Then we have David saying, like button smashed. There we go. Thank you so much, David. And then Hunter said his first options trade was a 2,700% earnings winner. Wow.
That's a crazy one there.
Yeah, and then he said, talk about getting hooked. Yeah, I mean, that's how a lot of people get hooked into those earnings plays. But yeah, that's crazy. I don't even remember my first I don't even remember my first options trade.
I actually remember mine, Mike. I was on vacation like 5 years ago, and I remember you had actually taught me how to trade options, or how to actually buy them, at least during that like road trip I was on. And I remember I actually bought some AMD calls that expired the very next day, and I ended up winning like 200% on them, and I ended up getting hooked myself. But man, that was pretty crazy to remember the very first options trade. And I remember, though, I think the only reason I remember this trade is because I was on vacation when it happened, or else I wouldn't remember it at all. But it was a really crazy scenario. And I remember I was on Robinhood, and I just threw a couple $100 in there just to try it out. And I could not believe the way it worked out for me.
Crazy. And then Vicky said, Tom, where's the support for Apple?
Hey, there is no support. We're going up from here, Vicky. Don't even worry about it. No, I'm joking. But I'd say the decent support's down here around 140. If you want to look intraday, there's definitely a good intraday support at 141.55. You can see where this candle right at open here. I'll go to the 1 minute. You can see on the 1 minute how we came right down to 141.50, got that bounce right back. So definitely look at 141.50 as a decent intraday support.
Awesome. So we even have Disney popping off. I don't know if you saw that one, but this one's been on my watch list for a while now. They've just been consolidating and doing nothing for like months, or like honestly like the whole year. They've been going back and forth. Disney bounced off of this 170 support like I don't even know how many times over the past year. It's crazy. So it's looking good, though. It's holding its ground. They're a great company, great stock, and I feel like they have a lot of potential to pop off like over like the next couple months.
Yeah, I do too. And you know what? I think it could end up doing pretty well as well. Their parks are doing pretty good right now. I know that Disney's just been doing well in general. I know Disney Plus has been going good for them. It hasn't been the best. They haven't had the growth that they kind of wanted, but I know that it should end up doing well in the long term. And I love the way it's moving up today with the SPY and with Apple and with all these awesome tech stocks back to the upside. So it's just an awesome thing to see here. I think Disney looks pretty good today, Mike. It's actually moving up pretty well. And like you said, we bounced off this 170 support quite a bit, and we've been waiting for it to move for a long time. And the good news is that it has been holding its ground. At least it's been staying here and it hasn't been going lower. So that does make me happy in that sense. And I really hope that we can get a nice break up through this 180 resistance, because over the past couple of weeks, we've had a lot of problems breaking out above 180. And I'd really like to see a pretty solid move up above that. And maybe we can go back up and retest $200 soon.
We shall see. I'm definitely rooting for it, though. And then we have Alex saying SPY is moving above 440. Any levels to look for resistance? So, Tom, we're breaking out. What are like the next major levels?
Yeah, we're breaking 440. I definitely see one coming up here at 444. That's going to be the biggest one to look for. There is going to be some smaller levels in between 440 and 444, kind of like right around 441.60 to 442. Definitely look for a little bit of resistance right there, but I'm seeing the main one up here around 444, and I'm not saying we're going to go hit that today. So definitely look out for this 442 resistance in between there. But man, I love the way SPY's moving today. These job numbers are really pushing the market up, and it just seems like an awesome turnaround after we've had a pretty bad past couple of weeks, to say the least.
Alrighty, and then we have Clove popping up a little bit. We have G joining the stream, asking about Clove. It's been a while, so thanks for joining, G. He has the $8, or it looks like he said the 8-strike call options looking nice. It's up 3% on the day. It's having a pretty good opening, so it looks pretty good. We just need some momentum with it. Like a couple months ago, there was a lot of hype with it, but I feel like it just kind of fell off the board. But hey, it's at a good level right now, and it's looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, and we broke back up through that $8 support, Mike. And I know that support's been holding up pretty well this week. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, that $8 support was so large, like we would bounce off of $8 and run up to $10, then come right back down. And it looks like we're kind of on that area again. So hopefully $8 ends up holding up as a good support for us. And if it does, definitely be prepared for maybe some bounces off of there.
Alrighty, and then another stock that's leading my watch list is Lemonade, LMND. This stock is up like 4.5% on the day. I don't know if you follow this one at all, but it's looking pretty good, and I feel like it's pretty solid for cash secured puts. Like, Hunter, if you're still on the stream, let me know what you think about it.
Yeah, I think that would be an awesome way to go right now, actually. And the IV actually had a decent little pop here, at least from the beginning of September. So that's good to see, at least. And hey, I know Lemonade has actually been getting killed in the short term, but this is the retail company, right?
This is it's basically like insurance.
Oh, okay, an insurance company. Then yeah, I would think that they could end up doing pretty good in the longer term. I think the one I'm thinking of is LLY, believe it or not. But looking at Lemonade, they look pretty good off this bottom support at $60. And I think it does look like it could end up turning up pretty well in the long term. And, unfortunately, the setup with it being an insurance company, it looks kind of like a setup like CHPT or RUN, or it's definitely kind of thrown into that growth stock territory. But for right now, I feel like it could definitely have a pretty good bounce back to the upside over the next few months, but just be careful of a little bit of consolidation. Like Mike said, I think cash secure puts might be the way to go here.
All right, and then we have Keisha saying, what do you guys think of Snap? So let's take a look at Snap. They are up pretty good today. Now, while they're not my favorite company for the long term, it doesn't mean they're bad at all. I just like other companies more, but they have earnings soon, so it's just a total gamble in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. I think that they could end up going up, just given the way that they've been holding this support around $70. And I was really looking for a break of this $70 support to the downside. You can see I actually have an alert here that I set a while ago, and it just failed to break below that. So for right now, I'll really be looking for a nice move back up. But, it is pretty scary right now. It's just been consolidating between $70 and $80, and it hasn't really been doing too much. So, until that earnings comes out, it probably won't move a lot.
Alrighty, and then we have Kathy saying, what's up with BABA? Up yesterday, down today, support and resistance, please. So, yeah, the China stocks have been all over the place. They're just really volatile. Like when you have a week where the stock goes from 138 all the way up to like 170. Like, you just have to expect a lot of volatility. But yeah, you're 100% right. It's definitely all over the place, and I do expect it to like trend up over the next couple of weeks. But keep in mind, like, these stocks are like super sensitive to news, especially like regulation news and like anything with the Chinese government. So just keep that in mind. It does definitely have some unique risks with this one, but I think it looks pretty good. And then Tom, like, for support and resistance, what levels do you have?
Yeah, for Baba, I'm having a pretty big support down here, right around 162. I think that's going to be a very big level in the short term. Below 162, definitely eye up $160. That's going to be probably an even bigger one, but 162 is definitely coming up first. So eye up 162. As far as resistance goes, there's a pretty big resistance at $170, and we're actually having quite a lot of problems breaking out above that. So definitely look at 170 as the top and like 160 as the bottom, but there is kind of a little bit of a middle range there at 162.
Alrighty, and then we have Alex saying, can you take a look at FOUR? I've been trying to play puts. It's been going up the last couple of days after strong sell-offs. Do you see it falling in the short term? So let me take a look at it really quickly. FOUR. I mean, it definitely has been downtrending. Honestly, like, I'm just kind of neutral on this one. If anything, I'm more bearish than bullish, but I don't love the setup to the upside or the downside, and that's just my opinion. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite either right now. Unfortunately, it had this really bad move down lately, and it is kind of popping back off today. Personally, yeah, it's really hard to say right now. I mean, they had an awesome run to the upside there for that nice year and a half that they had, just pretty much straight stair stepping up. And I love the stair steps. I love that type of setup, but unfortunately, we're now stair stepping to the downside. So it's going to be really hard to say. I would personally just wait a couple months and maybe wait for some of this movement to maybe consolidate and maybe see where the stock goes, because if it keeps just dying and falls down to 60 or even lower than that, it's going to look pretty bad in the short term. But hopefully we can hold one of these levels eventually and maybe get back up. There is a pretty decent support here around $70, so maybe this will be the bottom, but I definitely would not bet on it and be really careful with this one.
All right, we shall see. So looking at everything, we have still a lot of upwards movement. Zoom is doing pretty well today, Tom. Like, I feel like a lot of people are kind of sleeping on this one because it has been selling off so much over like the past couple months, but I feel like it looks pretty good. Like, I know back in like the middle of 2020, everyone was just flocking into Zoom, and it seems like just like a lot of its hype has just disappeared.
Yeah, it really has, unfortunately. And the thing is just, I think a lot of it has to do with the COVID stuff and their last earnings. Like, their earnings went decent. They just had their outlook wasn't the best. So it's just a really weird scenario for Zoom right now. And I personally feel like for the long term, like, grabbing shares right here isn't a terrible thing to do. But at the same time, it's pretty risky given everything going on right now. And given the fact that they were doing so well with COVID, and now that COVID's kind of going away, they're not doing quite as well. Their earnings are looking pretty good though. So that does give me confidence for the long term. Like I said, I would maybe look at selling some puts or maybe getting some shares for the long term here. But other than that, unfortunately, it's just had some pretty bad moves to the downside. So it's a very hard scenario, very unique scenario as well. There's not a lot of other stocks in this type of situation, but I feel like for the long term, it's a decent time to grab shares.
Righty. And then we have George saying DDOG almost touched 160 today, but it's showing so much strength lately. I think it might break soon. So, wow, it was like 8 cents off. So, yeah, it definitely has a lot of momentum. It's on a pretty awesome uptrend. And, yeah, I'm with you for sure. I mean, there's not too much resistance right now besides, 160, but it's so close, and I wouldn't be surprised if it broke.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, it looks like we're kind of consolidating here. Down here at the bottom, we're definitely not getting any too bad of moves down yet. So it looks like it's definitely holding its ground well. And I would not be surprised to see another break of 160 pretty soon as well. And it might take until tomorrow, but man, if it breaks 160, I could see it running pretty good. And, we've been looking at this one a lot over the past couple of days, Mike. Man, they've just been on a straight tear to the upside. I know that they're in an awesome sector too.
Yep. All right, we have Hunter saying the LMND 45 or 50 strike cash secured puts for November 19th aren't bad. And yeah, I agree with you for sure. Like, if you could scoop them up at 45 or 50, that should be pretty awesome. So I definitely agree with you there. He said huge support at 45. The monthly on Lemonade has way more open interest. Gotcha. All right, yeah, so definitely keep this one on your radar. I don't even think it's bad for shares, to be honest, but of course, the cash secured puts would be safer. And then George said DraftKings now breaking out from its latest highs. So it's about time, like this stock has been taking a beating lately. And in my opinion, I understand why it would sell, like, especially because of like the Entain deal and the possible deal with ESPN, but I don't think it should have sold off this much. But either way, they're popping back up just like George said, and I think it looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's honestly still at some great levels for the longer term. So if you guys are looking to scoop up DraftKings, now might be the time, because who knows, in a couple weeks, I would not be surprised if DraftKings was back up there around $60 or something like that. Looks like the stock is definitely going to try to make for a pretty good turnaround here. So definitely keep it on the radar. And I would not be surprised to see it maybe get, like I said, a good move back up to $60 or something like that over the next few days.
All right, and then also one thing I just thought of is, how we were looking at Disney a little while ago, or a couple minutes ago, whatever, and they're popping off pretty well. We also can't forget that they have that potential deal with DraftKings or Caesars, so that should be pretty big for them. I know they're like kind of looking to indirectly like venture into like sports betting, through like DraftKings or Caesars. So, when that deal does get announced, I feel like that could be, a pretty big catalyst for Disney.
Yeah, I do too. That would actually be amazing for them, and also just amazing for ESPN in general. But yeah, that would be awesome for them to get into that sports betting sector. And I know that ESPN is a huge company, and if they get a deal, and I know it should help Disney either way, like if they get a deal with Caesars or DraftKings, no matter who they get the deal with, it might help. Well, honestly, it makes a lot of the companies paying the money go down. So maybe it'll make Disney go down in the short term. But man, I feel like that they could end up doing very, very well from this. And I feel like that a lot of people have been waiting for this news for a long time. And whenever it finally comes out, I feel like everybody who's been waiting might finally make a move on it.
Here we go. And then George said Verizon and T seem to have found a bottom, at least for now. So hopefully it's a bottom after this huge sell-off. But Tom, do you have any last-minute stocks, options, or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Yep. One thing I'm keeping my eye on today is Caterpillar. They are posting a pretty good bottom down here. They have earnings coming up pretty soon. So that does suck in that sense. But if they can go up over the next week before earnings come out, that could end up being a pretty good move here. And if the overall market gets a decent pop back, I would not be surprised to see Caterpillar kind of move back up too. And, Caterpillar was a great stock last year. They were just killing it. And then they had this really bad pullback, but definitely eye them up. I feel like with a lot of these other stocks starting to pop off, if the overall market gets a nice move back up, I think Caterpillar might be able to follow along with it. And looking at it, Caterpillar is actually still pretty close to support. So there's still quite a bit of room back up if it starts to fly.
So thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. We have a lot of movement, both the upside and the downside today. So lots of opportunities out in the market right now. Again, thank you guys so much for joining today, and have an amazing rest of your day.